Welcome to Beyond the Classroom with Bhavna and Dia, where we have the privilege of introducing you to our today's guest, Dr. Sonakshi Ruhela. She is the program head of psychology and health sciences at Curtin University, Dubai. She has authored the book Counseling Interventions for Millennials, published in 9 languages by Lambert Publications in 2020. Her book is also archived at the Mohammed bin Rashid Library in UAE and has received the prestigious UAE Mastermind Authors Awards.
She's also a TED talker and has participated in more than 200 national and international events. Welcome, Dr. Sonakshi. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
So, the topic for today is the art of saying no in life of an individual.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us more about your childhood? What were some of your fondest memories? Where did you grow up?
Okay. So I grew up in Delhi and blessed with wonderful parents and a younger sibling. I have a brother. And so it was a very nuclear family, very confident family, very well educated family that I was born into. And some of the fondest memories that I have is, my grandfather, and he had a library. He was the officiating vice chancellor of a university called Jamia Millia Islamia. It was one of the most popular universities in India. And he would take me to the school during the recess because he would started his classes with Gayatri Mantra. So I remember those as very, very powerful because that time when I was in that vicinity, I used to feel like, oh, I want to be a university professor, it's amazing because everybody's coming to him, talking to him. They're just here to attend his sessions. So it was an amazing idea. So those were some of the fondest memories. And something that I remember very early on was that we used to have an iron gate in my house, the ones that you close and it's the backyard iron
Yeah.
gate. And my mother was a professor in Delhi University. So when she would come back home, I would wear her sari, put on a makeup, put her high heels. And I
Okay.
was as young as about, 6.5, 7 years of age. And I would just tie that and pretend that I'm this teacher, who has these
Okay.
imaginary students. And write on that iron gate and then, use the names of my classmates and shun them down, say, hey, you stop talking. So my parents tell me that as young as I was 6.5 or 7, they knew I'm going to be a professor someday. So
Wow.
those are fond memories.
So, why psychology?
Actually, it fell accidentally on me. It's a very, very fortunate accident. I wanted to go into HR, human resources. My father is into human resource. So I was very inspired by the idea of carrying a briefcase, At that point of
Yeah,
time, we used
that
to have those
time.
briefcases.
Yeah, and it used to be one of the things you associate fathers with.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
he
You
was
had that
a
safari and
absolutely
a
he was very well dressed. His vocabulary was very sharp, and and he used to work with Laksa Parker and
Oh,
Dabur. So naturally, his clientele was
was
different.
that kind
So I
of.
was in awe of the fact that I have to dress up and go there and be this one person. Very enamored, and. Somebody told me, and I was going through these college applications when someone said, "Oh, you want to go into HR? Why don't you go biopsychology? Everybody does BBA.
True.
So why follow the conventional path? Well, go unconventional. It's you, Sonakshi." And I said, "Yeah, I am unconventional. Why am I going the conventional way?" So I
Mm,
landed into psychology. I was very sure I wanted to get into human resource, but when I started studying psychology, that's when the change happened, when I started to feel these massive changes in myself as a person. I was observing a lot of things, and I had people who would come and speak to me, and I suddenly realized that my bandwidth of their conversation was very high.
yeah.
So
oh,
I could really take in a hour's conversation or 2 hours conversation and keep them engaged. And that's when I thought, oh, this is working for me. So
That
that's when I
is.
went to do my master's and, chose psychology. Then that was never ending, never looking back.
eleven.
So, coming to our today's topic.
Yeah.
So, Most of us find it very difficult in certain situations to say no to your friends, your family. So, how important this art of saying no, is for an individual, as a person or, as a professional?
See, irrespective of anything, it's about making choices in life. And most of the time, when our choices are quite dictated by not what we want, but what the other person expects of us, we end up saying yes if we are on the discretion of most people. For example, it was my absolute choice to be here at this podcast today. Otherwise, there are very subtle ways of saying, sorry, I'm not available, this XYZ. But it's a choice that you practice. So when you start to associate things as, oh, this is my choice, then saying no becomes easy. If you feel that, if you understand that, oh, I need to, suppose you're serving me extra food, and if I don't want extra food, and if I'm very sure I don't want an extra serving, then it's easier for me to say no. What is happening is most people are not sure of their choices. They're not sure of exactly what is it that they want to do at this point of time.
Yeah, but then there is always a question of you know m- making someone upset
Yeah.
by saying no, because then you fear that, okay, maybe if I say no, this friend or
Yeah.
this family member or this colleague might get upset.
Yeah. So that is true. And in fact, people do get upset most of the time. But if you see, I feel it's got a lot to do. See, saying no is important. That is definitely. But it's got a lot to do with how it is said, when it is said, the way it is said also. Language plays a very, very important role. And often people feel language just means, oh, she said no. It's the tonation, it's the pitch, it's the, confidence, it's the choice, it's the explanation that sometimes you give as to why you're saying no for something. Then people are receptive. So what happens, for example, is I'll tell you some. I'll give you an example rather from a client that I had in India. Uh, he was about a 13-year-old child who was coming to me for a session, and that was the only session in my lifetime in the 14 years of my career where somebody went quiet for 45 minutes. He went absolutely silent. He said, I'm not going to talk. So, as therapists, we are not supposed to really puncture them to talk. So, we give them their space and things like that. So 45 minutes he didn't speak, but then he started to, broke the ice and we spoke. Next session, he came, next section, otherwise, he started to drop out of the session. So, once he came to me and I said, what happened to you? You stopped coming, for the therapy, and this is after a long time you're coming here. And he said, oh, my parents stopped paying me. So, where in India they were paying me 2,000 rupees an hour to meet the child, they were paying him 5,000 rupees an hour to
To
go
meet
to the
you. Oh,
therapist. And he was exercising no very well. He said, you promised me 5,000, you keep 5,000 here, and I will go to the session.
wow.
So you see, it's about, if you want to say no, you can possibly say no, put your foot down. The only thing is tonation, pitch, and most of the time, I'll also tell you, it's the thought speech coordination. Most of the time, in thoughts, you keep saying no, but it does not slip out in the speech because you start to think or create your sentences around it. I have somebody used to say that I actually keep thinking in Hindi,
And you translate.
translate it, and then say it in English. By the time people accept that, oh, I will do this work. So, there are these generic
Yeah.
issues that also happen, which I think is
Today,
important.
if we talk about parents,
Yeah,
it is so difficult for parents to say no
yeah,
to their children
yeah,
or create boundaries for
yeah,
their children.
yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on this, or what are any kind of tips? As you said, language. But then, when you're parenting, when you're every day
Yeah.
with your child, it is not possible that every single day you will be sweetly saying no
Yeah.
to them or indirectly saying
Yeah,
them no.
yeah,
So, how can we as parents
yeah.
deal with this?
See, most important is the fact that parents must say no to the child. if they wish to. They must say no. uh, it's not about setting boundaries all the time, but it is also about them being able to take a feedback which is not in their favor.
True.
Most of the time, coaxing or being too sweet to the children. I always tell the parents also. I said too much sugar causes diabetes, right?
True.
So
Yeah.
it is
Actually.
quite possible that you are exposing your child to diabetes. The world is not as sweet as you are expecting your
True.
child to
It's a
be.
big bad world out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you have to, step in and say no, be firm if you have laid down any consequences. So, for example, I'm going to ground you, yeah, or you will be home after 8 p.m. and you have to reach home at 8 p.m. And otherwise, there will be consequences. So let the consequences come.
Because that is what real life is. You do something,
Absolutely.
you face
Yeah.
consequences.
But then, if you talk about gentle parenting,
Yeah.
Bhavna, what do you
Yes.
think? How gentle parenting? No, is it a good word to be used when you're following this kind of a parenting?
See, in the jungle, the easiest tree to cut is the one that stands tall.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's the easiest tree to cut. You have to be flexible. So
Pick your
that,
battles, kind
yeah.
of a thing.
So it's important for us to say that while you're saying that gentle parenting, I see it as only parenting. Yeah, there is no perfect definition of it. You can cluster them and categorize them into I mean, which parent doesn't want to be gentle with their child?
True. Agreed.
Every parent wants to be gentle with their child. But if by gentle you mean giving up into their demands, then I would say no. Then I would say no, that's not required. That's not what something we need to do.
Yeah, because there's so many things happening around. You can't keep saying yes. I had seen a movie called Yes Day. I was just thinking, have you
Yeah.
seen that, Bhavna?
No, not yet.
There's a movie called Yes Day. And I was
Okay.
thinking, oh my goodness, this is something the parents are supposed to say yes for every single thing, whatever the children are talking about.
Oh, that's actually quite unhealthy for a child.
And
Yeah,
it was
because
a movie. So again,
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it leads to a certain pattern. If somebody's too much used to a yes as a child, I have a client that met me on Thursday. The husband said, they call her Princess X. Yeah, she's Russian. He's from Morocco and they're married. So he says they have always treated her like a princess. The brother only calls her Princess X. And the father does this. He says he never says no. So for that, even if they have taken her to Indonesia at a 35,000 dirhams trip, or I've given her solitaires, I've given her everything, she still does
Not
not seem
happy.
to feel happy
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it
True. I agree.
because she's been grown and brought up in a
So
certain
that's
manner, which
that's kind
is
of default
princess.
setting ho jata hai na. Yeah.
Absolutely. So imagine the amount of pressure it puts on your spouse
True.
right. And when you go in a corporate world, everything
It
is
is,
not
yeah.
going to be a yes.
in your favor at all.
So if now let's reverse the situation.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, so like the times have changed, and kids now have internet. They have access to all the news or all the policies or all the trends going on around the world. So how important is when you talk about child's perspective, there are certain times they also want to say no,
Yeah.
but then they hold back, thinking that in a lot of cultures or in a lot of traditional conventional families, the moment the child wants to say no, it's considered as a factor of disobedience, of insults, and it becomes very upsetting for the parents. So what can be one of the ways that a child can say no, wherein the parents should also be on the same table, or at least listen?
So again, I'll come to something which is very basic. Negation or no or never. These are words and connotations that can be avoided. For example,
Absolutely.
I never use them so much.
Okay.
The idea is you can always go ahead and say things like, I want to do this. However, I possibly think this is something that is on my repertoire, or this is something which is in my list at the moment. It's a lifestyle to be able to, have a certain way of speaking and talking. Have you ever focused or have you ever found out that Have you ever seen that, you find some people who are very attractive orators? They're just brilliant, you just
Yeah.
find them very attractive. You will see that the beauty about their conversation is, one, they take enough pauses. They don't speak very fast. They take enough pauses. Secondly, hardly you will see any negation.
Mm.
You will find yourself being very positively motivated when you come out of their session. Like today, we attended Dr. Ramani's
Yes, we
session.
did.
Hardly we found any negation.
True. I agree.
It was all about this is possible, this is possible, this is possible. So, negation needs to be avoided. That's one. Number two, uh, I would really urge the parents to change the game, in the sense, if you see a lot of these Instagram posts, and sometimes, mothers share stories with me, especially if they're clients, that how they're giving their child choices, and, oh, you go, you have 10 dirhams with you, you can buy this. These things, these trends have been changing. Uh, Always have a table discussion.
Agreed.
Have like a mannerism or a ritual where you have a table discussion. Where, why am I saying no is also important? Yeah. I mean, like parents will tell the child, don't put your hand into the socket. But why?
Consequences should be known to them.
Exactly. Why shouldn't I put my, the child doesn't know. You have to tell them, if you put your, finger into the socket, there is an electric shock that you might get. So it's better you avoid it. Diplomacy, whether a lot of people call it diplomacy, a lot of people call it Q ways of talking, keyword thinking.
But then kids being kids, they just want to say, okay, no, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And parents find it
I
upsetting.
think kids, when they say no, they also feel they have a control on their life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. These days it become more of a rebellion.
Because
Yes,
if
Yes, I
agreed.
agree.
Yeah,
It's like
this is
saying, oh,
what that
you
is.
said it, I will definitely
Yeah.
say no.
Sometimes I agree that kids should be given a liberty to say
Choice
no,
to say no.
because
Yes.
they need to feel that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they'll cooperate more if they get a chance to say no, if I'm right.
Yeah. But then that's an organic setting, if you see. When in COVID, I went to a student, they were sitting in the university. I said, you got to be home. Why aren't you going home? That's a safe place. The student turned around and said, are you sure my home is safe?
Point.
Yeah. So it all starts with, whether we are talking about parents and children, it also starts about the safety of the culture of the house. You must introspect why your child wants to say no at every advance that you make at them.
Right.
There must be
Very
something wrong in the system.
So, what part of your work you enjoy the most?
I enjoy meeting couples quite a lot. I love relationships. I can see the interplay and the dynamics of, and I'm an ardent believer of love, which is sometimes, absolutely lost in marriage. I will, I was sitting with a client, and they said, so their starting line to me was, we are like any other, 28-year-old married couple. So, no, Dr. Sonakshi. I said, no, I don't know. What is a stereotypical 28-year-old married couple looks like? I don't know, sir. What are we talking about? So people expect, they put themselves into the criteria. Another client came to me and she said, Sonakshi, when you get married, love just goes out of the door. And I said, who?
True.
You have to say who. So these are all make-a-believe things. If you want to believe them, you can believe them. I've seen couples who are 75 still in love, have a very, very good life.
Yes.
So you see, I love that part of it, where I break sometimes their myth and says that, don't borrow things from your environment. Create your own experiences.
Right.
So now let's get you into the hot seat and do some rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
So your favorite time of the day?
Favorite time of the day? Okay. I actually love mornings. Yeah, I quite love mornings. And especially if they're accompanied with tea. I like tea.
Agreed.
Morning tea.
Morning tea, yes.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, do dreams hold meaning?
Oh, absolutely. They're all use. I personally and professionally also feel that dreams are a way of telling you that there is something that needs to be done about something.
Okay.
So their suppressed feelings, their ambitions, they're very important for us.
One thing you're deeply grateful about.
My family, especially my mother.
So, what moment of your life you would relive?
Mm, that's interesting one. Actually, current times, I'm in except for the fact that I should be in the best of the health, personally, professionally, socially, environmentally, and temperamentally, I'm in the
Best
best
times.
phase of my
Yeah.
life.
Okay. So, what is the worst thing that you ever did as a child and you actually managed to get away with it?
Oh, lovely. Beat my brother
Oh,
quite a
yeah.
lot. So
Okay.
I come from a Rajput family where they don't really raise hand on their girls.
Yes,
Yeah, so
yes.
even if I did something wrong, he would get beaten up.
Oh, God.
So, money or happiness?
Happiness any day with money.
Yes.
That was a
Lots
smart
of
one.
money. Happiness, but with lots of
With
money.
lots of money. So, what makes you angry?
Okay. What makes me angry? Wow. What makes me angry? Sometimes that I find injustice makes me angry. I'll quote a little thing,
Yeah,
okay? I was
please.
uh, at one of the food joints in UAE, and this one person, he was serving us, and there was another couple who was sitting. So we were all having these, pani puris,
Yeah, yes.
and he was serving us, and he saw the other couple, and naturally they looked that they come from a certain strata of the society. So he said, please move, let them, come first. So I just felt like I can't have pani puri anymore. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to eat it, please, please. So that
That
those are
kind of,
things that
yes.
just make me angry.
Your favorite subject in school?
Civics was one of
Oh,
my favorite subjects, and English was one of my. I was very articulate. I could.
English I can understand. Civics is very unusual.
I had a very good teacher.
Yeah, that actually,
Teacher makes you
was,
fall in
yeah.
love with the
And
subject.
as when you're students, if you get 10 on 10 and everything, then you make it your favorite subject. So
True.
it was my
Right.
favorites.
Sweet or savory?
Sweet any day.
Oh, okay. What's one thing that you wish you knew when you were 19?
When I was 19, that you can fall in love multiple times. Yeah, that it's not only once that you fall in love. I come from India. We all have been born in DDLJ's era.
Oh,
So you
yes.
feel
Oh,
like
my
there is
God.
one white horse, one Raj, one Prince
Yes.
Charming who's going to come and take you and, give you the best life. Well, I feel there are many Rajas out there.
Yeah, but isn't it ironical that in India, the marriages we have, actually the groom comes on white horse?
You
Well,
know,
now it's
yeah.
even Mercedes and Rolls Royce.
I'll tell you a beautiful thing. I was at V Convention, which was the
Yeah.
Women Empowerment
Yes,
Convention, happened
recently.
over
Yeah.
in Dubai. And we had Carla Bruni, who was the first lady of France. She was there and she said something wonderful. She said, times have changed. Now women buy their own white horses.
That is the reason I love that movie Tangled to this
Oh,
day.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sonakshi.
Yeah.
As we wrap up today's session, it was very insightful and it was lovely to talk to you.
Likewise,
Yeah,
I had so much fun.
absolutely. It was amazing session and
Yeah.
wonderful insight.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you
Thank
so
you
very
so
much for
much.
inviting me. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.